continue with this and move on to continue this tournament. This is going to be a great deal. I'm really glad that everybody's involved in this and just to see so many entries. So whenever we get started, I'm going to start and kind of run through this a little bit. If you have any questions, please ask me. I'll try to keep up with you guys as much as I can as soon as possible to get back to those questions. But hopefully this is clear for you guys. I'm going to try to keep it pretty simple. As far as we're going to go through the obstacle sheet, we've got the first obstacle, we've got the tarp obstacle. On the tarp obstacle, we've got an 8x10 tarp. If you have a bigger tarp, you can fold it up. I basically took this 8x10 tarp, and ideally, I'd like to not see holes in it, even though this is a very poor example of a tarp. So bear with me on a couple things here. I've got some placements here to keep this tarp down. I've got it about 4 feet wide on this obstacle because I took it and I folded this quarter in to make it narrower. So I want you guys to fold that quarter in to have it 4 feet wide, and then of course you've got your tarp and your 8-foot long tarp. So find some placement, stretch it a little bit tighter, put the corners down so it's not flapping in the wind or they catch a foot on it and start dragging it around to make sure that things are safe in this aspect. And that's why I say try not to have holes in your tarp, just because you can get shoes caught on them, things like that. You want to make sure safety is the number one thing here that we're doing in these obstacle courses. As far as our start cones go, I'm going to have our start cones on this side. So basically, if we're looking at the obstacle course, I've kind of got it somewhat in a rectangle, and it doesn't have to be in a rectangle. You guys can separate these obstacles as far apart as you want. I just have specs on like the gate transitions and everything. So if I looked at this course in something like a triangle, I've got this corner here. Straight ahead is the next obstacle for my second corner. So it's this end. And then what you're going to do is you're going to look all the way down, and this is going to be your long way of the triangle. You've got this corner and that corner over here, there, your box, and then you've got your drag in that corner. So we've got our tarp in this corner, our bucket, pickup in that corner, box in that corner, drag in that corner. So it'll all come together here in just a minute whenever I show you guys how to set these up. So going to this drag corner, you can set this cone as far as you need to stay clear of this path, but try to keep it pretty close. It just gives you a general 9 feet is what I'm putting my start cones at from the obstacle. So if you measure from this corner, I'm going to go 9 foot out, 108 inches, you've got your start cones. Same here, between level 1 and 2 and 3, you've got your level 1, and then you've got your level 2 and 3. So here's your level 1, 9-foot start cone. Put it here on the left side if you're going to be going through that way. On your level 2 and 3, start cone, 9-foot, to be going this way. Then I've got my end cone over here because you need to go past this end marker. If I measured the same exact things here and I did 9 feet on this side, I'd put a placement marker. That placement marker is going to come out right directly with this cone. If I came 9 feet here, 9 feet directly in line with that cone. So it's kind of like a little square. Basically, if you measured straight off of this corner, then you're going to look at 12 feet to this cone. But for the side pass, you're just going to come straight over here. I've got my start cone set up, 9 feet on this side. I've got my first board where you basically come through. You get your start cone, you're going to pause, come over, start your obstacle. You're going to straddle the end of this obstacle. Then that's where you're going to side pass the obstacle, however your paper reads to do it. And I'll have an example of level 1 in the next video. So you've got your side pass DL, your 12 feet, just basically make sure you're squared off in just an L. That's all you got to do. So these are the 12-foot boards. If you don't have 12-foot boards, try to put some together. Just give yourself something that you can straddle and side pass. Give me a visual of something you're straddling. So I know it's hard to get those things, but this is kind of more important that I'd like to have those 12-foot poles for this instance. All right, so with that one, we'll go ahead and go to our third one, is move your bucket. I've got my start cone for move your bucket coming right here. And with move your bucket, you've got your start cone. I've laid all my start cones down as far as the big ones because I have my 4 big cones for my transition points. These are just my start markers. So anything laying down is just a start or end cone, or it's the little tiny cones for me here in my obstacle course. You're going to place your horse where you want to place your horse here. Straight across from where you're tied off on the end, because you're just going to pick this bucket up, lift it off the ground for like level 1, and then you can move the bucket, keeping it off the ground. I want to see you move this bucket over to the next place point. Move it back. So this is kind of how this obstacle works, keeping it off the ground, making sure your horse maneuvers, how read in the obstacle sheet. So with that, what I have here is you start out with this bucket. I've got a place point here where I basically just take my point that I've anchored off to. So I put the materials listed with an anchoring point so it prevents crop eating things. So because of the rain we've had, I can't set this up in the arena anymore. I had it in there and then things kind of went array with the big storm we had. So what I had to do is rig this up, and that's exactly what I want you guys to do also, is be ingenuitive about things. It's no big deal to kind of do what you have at home. Use the things you have. I don't want you to have to spend a bunch of money on this. What I did is I just kind of tied this pole in here onto the back of like my tie straps and all that, just so it's a secure spot, because it's not going to take a lot of force anyway. And if something went wrong, it doesn't matter if it kind of breaks off, but make sure it's just something secure. It's got to be something that you can pull on a little bit, because the bucket's not extremely light when you're pulling on that rope too. You're just pulling a lot of tension to it. So tie off here, somewhere around 5.5 feet is general for the height of this. Makes it a lot easier for you. If you're too low, it's really hard to get that bucket off the ground. If you're too high, you're running out of rope. So somewhere like between 5 and 6 feet is perfect. If you measured this off, I'm going to come straight off of the vehicle. 12 feet is where I tied off here in the middle. And at that point, that's where you can tie your bucket. All I did was a little overhand knot right in the middle of the handle. That's all I did. I put a little block in it to weight it down. It helps keep it weighted down so it doesn't flop over all the time. Put as much weight in as you need to. It's hard to keep things super consistent, so you can kind of, if you're a little bit, weaker in your hands or wrists or whatever, this is a good opportunity for you to kind of fix these things up easy for you to maneuver and handle. So I've got 8 feet on one side, 8 feet on the other. And what you can do for that, for your flat markers, these are your flat markers that I have written on there. For those flat markers, that's where you can bring that bucket over to your 8-foot mark. Make sure it's placed where you can set that bucket on your flat marker, both sides. So each side of straight out from your tie spot, you got 8 feet over, 8 feet over, put your markers down. And you can take your rope. This is one of your minimum ropes, and you can get it set up any way you want on this obstacle. Just getting everything set up. Okay. So there's that one. That's kind of a complicated one. So that's all done. We'll move on to our next obstacle. We've got our back through the chute. So this is the one that really coordinates with the side passing the L. And with this side pass, I want you to be able to see this pole here and come back to where it kind of lines up with this middle part of this. And this is where you guys are going to have a drawing of this, so you'll be able to see it. That this is exactly the middle of this back through chute. And it's going to kind of come out to the middle of that L a little bit. But for your trot over pole, making sure that that side pass goes straight off of this point. And with that one, that's where we can measure these here, that this side pass pull, the end of it